Hey guys, Kellen here with Droid Life. Apologies for the months of delays, but here we are finally with 25 tips and tricks for the Nexus 5. The first tip we're going to actually talk about is wireless charging. For those not familiar, the Nexus 5 actually has wireless charging built in. So you don't need to buy a separate backplate like you would on a Samsung device. All you need is a wireless charger, which I just so happen to have right here. All you do then is drop your phone on there, make sure it has power, and it should start wirelessly charging. So if I hold that up and you look under the date, indeed it does say charging. So wireless charging tip number 1. Now, before we get too deep in this, I do want to point out that some of this stuff is going to be fairly beginner, elementary. You've seen it before, but we just want to make sure everyone knows how to use everything in their Nexus 5, at least to its fullest, and we feel like this sort of roundabout tips and tricks guide will help you get there. So next thing, while we're here, let's jump into lock screen widgets. So if you're running essentially any new-ish build of Android, you have lock screen widgets. We've covered these before, but on the Nexus 5, I just want to make sure you know that you might need to enable them. So if you dive into settings, security, there's actually a checkbox there for enable widgets. And once you have those enabled, you can swipe from the left, and there's a big plus box. So you could add, say, another clock. You could swipe from the left again, plus, and then you could say maybe add in, how about sound search, in case you want to find a song that's playing. If you want to go ahead and delete those, you just long press and drag them up to remove. Drag them up to remove, and then you're back to one page. So while we're back to one page, let's talk about camera. Now, this is the quickest way to access your camera, and it has been with a Nexus 5. If you don't own a Moto X, which does the little wrist thing, this would be the quickest way. So essentially, what you're going to do is you've got your phone in your pocket. Pull it out, hit the lock button, and swipe from the right, and that should jump you right into your camera. So once you're in your camera, I wanted to point out that you can actually use the volume keys to take pictures. So say you don't want to try to fumble over the blue button, you can actually tap volume up or volume down, and it will snap photos. You can see it's snapping them for me right now. I also wanted to point out that while you're in the camera, you can notice it's full screen. But let's say a notification comes through your phone while you're in here. You can actually do a little mini swipe from the top, and that will enable your notification bar. Then you could swipe again and actually get into your notification bar, which is kind of cool. And then the last thing I want to show you with the camera, and this is not actually new, but just a reminder, while you're recording video, so I'm recording video, you can actually tap anywhere on the screen and it will take stills while you're recording that video. So just keep that in mind. Let's jump home real quick and talk the Google Experience Launcher. So the Nexus 5 actually came with a new launcher that's exclusive to the Nexus 5, though you can sideload it on a number of devices and use it if you'd like, but it is officially only on the Nexus 5. And so they've changed some things or reverted back to original practice, which would be one thing, adding widgets. So you now long press to add widgets, where in the past for a number of years, you actually went into, or I should say a number of builds, you actually went into the app drawer, and up top you had a widgets tab. On the Nexus 5, that's changed, and you actually have a widgets button right there. And then you scroll through and you find a widget you like and you hold it and drag it wherever you'd like. So actually, let me drag it and put it on this front page. Also, you'll notice that I only have one page. I don't even have a page to the left or right. So in order to add pages, you actually have to drag things to them. So I have my clock, and I'm going to drag it over here to the right. And with the Nexus 5 Google Experience Launcher, you can only add things to the right, which I'll get to in a second. You also notice that once I dragged it over to the right, I'm able to resize this however I see fit. Now let's talk, if you also want to add an app, same as it's always been, you grab an app and you sort of drag and drop it. If you want to create a folder, you just grab another app and drag and drop it on top of that app. Of course, I missed. There you go, and that creates a little folder for you. Now you can also quickly rearrange your home screen. So if I grab this folder and I want it up here, it will actually move that clock out of the way. Or if I want this clock back up there, I can just sort of swap it, and it does those things on the fly. Now, if I want to get rid of a home screen, since you can see I now have two, actually, if I want to create a third one, let's say I just grab an app or another widget, and you can actually create then a third home screen. So now I have 3 home screens. But if you want to get rid of a page, you actually just have to remove everything from that page. So you can see I deleted that. Now I can't get over there. If I want to remove this page, I just go ahead and clear everything off of it as well. Now I'm back to one page. All right, so you'll notice scrolling to the left, there's nothing there. That's actually where Google Now should be. So we're actually going to enable Google Now. And let's just say, yes, I'm in. And we'll go with that email. So Google Now with the Nexus 5 is a little bit different, accessing it anyway if you're using this experience launcher. Now you can always swipe up and get there sort of your typical way, swipe up from home that is. But with the Nexus 5 experience launcher, Google experience launcher, you can actually just swipe to the left and that will get you there as well. So a quick swipe to the left gets you right in there. Or again, you can just swipe up from home and that'll get you there as well. If you don't like Google Now, you can actually turn it off by going into settings down at the bottom here. There's actually a switch for on off Google Now, and again, turn off. And now you'll know why I couldn't swipe anywhere to the left. All right, if you want to change wallpapers, long press, there's a wallpaper button. So you can pick the home sort of stock wallpapers, or you can tap the pick image and that will let you choose a custom wallpaper. Then the last thing I want to talk about is actually voice activation. So with the Google Experience Launcher and Google Search, if you have those all up and working properly together, you can actually do voice commands or voice searches, and only from the home screen, not from the lock screen, not from within an app or anything like that. So it's not quite as powerful as the Moto X. But I could say, okay, Google, how old is LeBron James? I promise I will stop doing that, but it's always the first thing that comes to mind for some damn reason. Anyway, LeBron's 29. So you can see you can do that hands-free as long as you are on the home screen. So let's talk quickly screenshots. For those not familiar, volume down and power at the same time. Hold them for a couple of seconds and it should take a screenshot, although that took way longer than it normally does. So let's try that again. Hold those both together. There we go, much quicker. Which then takes us into the notification area. So when you're in the notification area, obviously there's notification there. You can swipe those away if you want to get rid of them. You can actually expand or shrink those if you'd like as well, depending on the notification. Again, this stuff isn't necessarily new. You guys know how to do this. If you're new to Nexus 5, maybe that's new. But let's talk this other page over here, which is your quick toggles. So quickest way to access quick toggles is a 2-finger swipe down from the top. If you do a single finger, that just gets you into your notifications. 2-finger gets you into your toggles. But what I wanted to show you about the toggles is if you don't necessarily want to dive into your Wi-Fi settings or your Bluetooth settings, you can actually toggle those by just long pressing them for about a second. Long press, and that will turn them off and on. So something to keep in mind. But also while we're in here, let's talk about this location button down here, which is new to KitKat, I believe. And essentially what Google's trying to do is get you to save battery life by dealing with your location settings. So if you jump into location mode, you'll see you got high accuracy, which uses everything in its power to find your location. There's also a battery saving one, which uses less. And then there's one for device only, which should really extend out your battery life. But if you go with battery saving, you're not going to lose much experience, but you also should help extend your battery life. Again, it's something Google's trying to do by getting you to deal with location stuff rather than just turning everything off on your phone. You can also look in this location settings area to see which phones have accessed your location recently. And then let's say you don't want them running or accessing your location now, you can actually tap on them, then go in and force stop them, which is kind of a nice little deal there. Let's talk quickly about third-party launchers. So if you're using Nova Launcher, Apex, or one of those other really popular launchers, Google in KitKat has now built in a way to manage those. So if we go into settings, you'll notice under device this little home section. So if I tap on home, you see I've got the stock Google Launcher, and then I also have Nova Launcher installed. So if I want to use Nova Launcher, I can just tap on that, go home, and now I'm on Nova Launcher. And if I don't want to use Nova Launcher anymore, I can go back into Home and tap on the Google Launcher and switch quickly. So in the past, you used to have to go into App Manager, Settings, find the app, clear defaults, and do a bunch of that stuff. Now Google sort of made that pretty seamless. And speaking of just third-party apps in general, and now this is sort of an oldie but goodie kind of tip, but if you ever want to install apps that aren't from the Google Play Store, you need to go into Settings, Security, and go down here and check the box for unknown sources. And essentially what that will do is allow you to sideload applications without using Google Play. Now, the only reason I'm telling you about this feature, well, most of you probably know, but we post up a lot of APK files from Google Play because apps tend to roll out a lot slower these days. If you want to update those in a hurry, you can then sideload those. So let's talk another Nexus 5 exclusive feature. I believe it's exclusive for now. If we go into the dialer, and we pull up the dialer, you can actually tap up top here, and this is more of a powerful search box than just a sort of dialer feature, if you will. But let's say I start typing, and you probably saw this, if I start typing Deschutes Brewery, That's actually not in my contacts at all, but Google went ahead and found it for me, and I could actually tap on that and call Deschutes. Okay, so that's built into the dialer now, so you don't have to go to Google Maps or Google Search or something like that in order to find something. It's actually built into the dialer and sort of makes it easier to find things. Now, the cool thing is if I were to call Deschutes, say I made a reservation, and then they called me back a couple hours later to confirm my reservation, since I called them, they would then be sort of in my call log, and if they called me back from, you know, the number that I got a hold of them from, it would show that Deschutes was calling me, which is sort of a cool thing. Now, I can't show you that obviously because I can't get them to call me back, but Smart Dialer, really a cool feature in the Nexus 5, probably one of my favorites. All right, last oldie but goodie here is the task killer or switcher. So this little button down here, bottom right, if you tap on that, you can actually swipe apps away that you don't want running in the background. Now, I know you guys are probably familiar with that by now, but that's just sort of there. And then we always sort of finish this off with one last thing, which is let's show you the Easter egg. So if you go into settings and go into about phone, tap on the Android version a few times, get you into the beginning of the Easter egg. Tap on that a few times. You get to Android sort of KitKat logo with Android 4.4.2. And then if you long press on that, you get one more level, which is this sort of mosaic tile of all the old Android sort of icons and logos, which is kind of cool as well. So you can tap around that. It's not a game, but it is interactive. So anyways, this has been at least 25 tips and tricks for your Nexus 5. I know some of those were old, some of them are new. We just want to make sure everyone with a Nexus 5 knows how to work their device. So anyways, be sure to subscribe, check back with us. We are Droid Life. Peace.